Hi everyone, it's Wizmir and welcome back to World of Warships, and first episode, well, I'll be comparing ships to each other of the same class. As first episode, I'll use the special Halloween event called Terror from the Deep, where we first seen the submarines and which I'll use to compare them to each other. What I'll do is compare pure statistics of them, such as armament, size, characteristics and my own opinion, where I'll tell you which one I prefer the most and why. First ship is the Super Sub. Is the smallest of them all, the most nimble, with rudder shift of only 1.7 seconds, as well as the one with the best concealment. However, it has the smallest HP, nearly half smaller than the rest of them, but it's not that big of a problem, and you'll later see why. When it goes to armament, it has two forward torpedo tubes, each has torpedoes that have speed of 66 knots and damage up to 18,000, and reload of 50 seconds. It also has secondary armament, which is one 75mm gun, however do not expect it to do much, as you might have guessed. Next up is the oxygen levels. As it is the smallest sub of them all, it also has smallest oxygen tanks. That will provide you only with 50 seconds of oxygen. However, after it surfaces, it takes only 5 seconds to fully regain its oxygen levels. When I said it's nimble, I did not say it about its speed. Oh no. The speed is not the greatest, as it's only 24 knots tops, which is the lowest of all current subs, together with Seluve, I probably slotted that name, sub that has the same speed. Speed may not be the greatest, but it submerges fast like a rock and surfaces like a balloon. Look, it even bounces like one, using fun and engaging mechanics. So if you like to get into trouble fast, this sub will also allow you to get out of them in a blink of an eye, thanks to its maneuverability, fast regain of oxygen levels, and most importantly, thanks to how fast it submerges. Next up is the submarine called Seluve, or Sea Lion in English, which is one I've seen used most commonly in this battle scenario. In terms of armament, it has 6 torpedo tubes and all in forward section. 4 of them are the 18,000 damage ones, 2 on starboard side and 2 on port side respectively, which can go 56 knots with reload time of 40 seconds. 2 more tubes are the faster 76 knots, but making less damage, around 10k, torpedoes with the same reload time of 40 seconds. That gives you a total of 6 torpedoes at the forward section. Let me add that all of these torpedoes are packed with 3 launchers, which means that when you fire a torpedo from, let's say, launcher 1, if you have 2 loaded in that launcher, you can fire one after another, thanks to unique characteristics in comparison to British cruisers and destroyers that can fire individual torpedoes as well, but they still need to wait for whole launcher to load in order to fire any. That unique characteristic comes with all the submarines that have multi-torp launchers. When you have 4-slot torpedo launcher, you do not have to wait for all 4 to load. It means that after even 1 torpedo is loaded, you can fire it immediately with no need to wait for the rest of them to be loaded. I hope it all makes sense now. The secondary armament on this boat, however, does not simply exist. It has AA mount, however here it's completely useless due to the fact that in here there are no aircraft whatsoever. Number of HP is again pretty decent, 11,700 to be exact. So as you see, nearly a double that what Super Sub has. Like I mentioned, with the Super Sub, the Sea Lion have the same speed of only 24 knots, however the rudder shift time is not so great as it is 6.5 seconds. When you want to submerge or surface, the rate of how fast it happens is still quite decent. After you submerge, it gives you 1 minute 40 seconds of oxygen, with oxygen recovery time around 20 seconds, so pretty decent statistics again in comparison to other subs, with exception of the Super Sub. To sum this one up, I'd say that in my opinion this submarine is the most universal, where every statistic it has is pretty decent. Nothing special, but still pretty decent. Which is why I call it universal in comparison to others, and that's why I used the word decent so often. Now it's time for Barracuda submarine. It's the biggest of them all and the most sluggish with rudder shift of 7.6 seconds and turning circle biggest of all the subs available. However, it surprisingly has a decent speed of 27 knots, which is still not that fast but still faster than the other two I spoke about before. The armament of it is quite decent. 6 torpedo launchers in the forward section of the sub, 1 quad launcher with torpedoes making 66 knots with 22k damage, and 1 dual torpedo launcher with torpedoes making 76 knots and 10k damage. The secondary armament consists of 2 turrets, each armed with dual 133mm guns, which is the best among other subs. Reload time of 2.7 seconds makes them even better, as in this one you can make fires and finishing blows to enemy ships thanks to the decent accuracy of these guns. Nothing spectacular when comparing to ships like, let's say, Bismarck, but you get the picture. As I mentioned before, it's the biggest, which means it has huge oxygen tanks, giving us 1 minute and 50 seconds of oxygen when submerged, but oh boy, these tanks recharge forever, taking about 25 seconds from empty to full. It wouldn't be such a big deal if it wasn't for the long time of the sub submerging and surfacing, which makes it vulnerable for longer to enemy gunfire. That brings us to the last sub from these available at the start, and it's the Dagur Falcon. It's in my opinion the most unusual one, as it has 6 torpedo tubes at the back, that is 2 times triple launchers with each torpedo making 56 knots and dealing 18k of damage. At the front there is only 1 quad launcher, with torpedoes making 76 knots and dealing 10k of damage only. In terms of secondaries, I won't even discuss secondary armament, as there is no AA, no artillery, so nothing to brag about. There is one more thing about this sub which makes it also a bit different from others, and that is speed, which goes up to 31 knots. Rudder shift is also not that bad, as it's only 4 seconds. Submerging and surfacing also pretty fast, which makes it easier to jump up and down when you need to hide from ships and artillery fire. That brings me to the oxygen levels. When you submerge, it gives you 1 minute and 30 seconds of oxygen, which fully regenerates from empty to full in about 20 seconds. So it's not that bad actually. As we reviewed all the submarines that you get from the beginning of the event, it's time now to say something about the bonus one you get for completing a special combat mission available during the Halloween event. The submarine question is the Killer Whale. Jumping right into its statistics, it has 6 torpedo tubes at the forward section, 1 quad launcher and 1 dual launcher, when the quad launcher uses torpedoes of 66 knots and making over 21,000 of damage. The dual launcher uses torpedo speed of 76 knots and dealing 17k of damage. Moving towards half of the sub, we have 2 dual launchers, with 1 launcher having torpedo speed of 66 knots and 21k damage, and the other launcher having stars making 76 knots and dealing 17k damage. In terms of secondary armament, it has 1 102mm cannon in forward section, but do not expect it to deal much damage as it fails to penetrate even the catapults. We also have AA mount, however, since there is no aircraft in this scenario, you won't be using it at all. Skipping to maneuverability, it has rudder shift time of 7 seconds and speed of 28 knots, making it second fastest sub currently available. The turn circle radius is also quite big, as it is the second biggest sub in the scenario. Moving to submerging, surfacing and oxygen levels, this sub gives you only 1 minute 20 seconds of oxygen levels compared to some subs that are smaller but with bigger oxygen tanks. The upside is, it takes only 15 seconds to regain its oxygen levels fully. When it comes to submerging, it does not take long, but surfacing takes a bit over 5 seconds from periscope death, which can create sometimes a problem when you have torps heading your way while you run out of oxygen. You will not be able to dive for at least 7 seconds, making you vulnerable to attacks, so basically similar problem to the Barracuda submarine. As we go through all the submarines available currently in the World of Warships, I'd like to share a few words about them and which one is my favorite. Starting with which one is my favorite, I must say it's the Killer Whale. It has huge firepower, good speed, it has launchers in both sections, the bow and the stern of the sub, so basically it's what I was looking for as a perfect sub. As a bonus point, I might add that since I also like to enjoy the looks of the ships in-game when they catch my eye, I must admit that the Killer Whale is, in my opinion, the most good-looking one. But that's just my opinion, as you know. Few more words about this battle scenario and submarines being introduced in World of Warships. The scenario itself is quite interesting, the battle is very enjoyable and I loved playing it over and over. But I must say that, at least for me, it seems very easy compared to the other scenarios during Halloween event. Even when playing the hard mode version, which does not feel like hard apart from the fact that you'll need to kill more foes and spot more catapults, but everything seems to be the same. About subs being introduced to the game, I want to say that I have been really skeptical about them being introduced. However, I believe that they will bring some freshness to the game as well as completely new gameplay. Because to be honest, I was looking forward to depth charges being finally useful on the destroyers. But that will be topic for another day. I want to thank you all for watching, leave a like and sub if you like my work and want to see more. Bye for now, I hope you have an awesome day and I'll see you next time. Bye! Bye.